Alcohol politics.
Boom! Another big story breaking right now. We have the United States under Donald Trump has sent over 250 foreign gang members to El Salvador, to a top security prison, despite a judge order trying to block that. It's a big story involving multiple countries and really gets to the heart of the issue of gangs and organized crime in the Americas and this new effort to try and break that. So I'm going to go into two parts of this video. I'm going to first of all look at really what happened, and then second, look at the implications of this and where it's going. So Donald Trump made what is called a proclamation to expel certain gang members from the Tren de Aragua gang to El Salvador, where they'll be put in a top security prison. In this proclamation, it was cited that Tren de Aragua, a gang that originated in Venezuela, have been designated as a foreign terrorist organization. So this really gets now into actions following from the terrorist designations that we saw in January and February. Now, in this proclamation, it cited a 1798 law called the Alien Enemies Act. That act is like saying in wartime we can expel foreign agents, foreign enemies. And to justify this, they said in their words of the proclamation, the Tren de Aragua is perpetrating, attempting and threatening an invasion of US territory. So this is really upping the game in seeing this issue of foreign criminals, of gangs, of organized crime in martial terms, in war terms, and really using the power of the US government to fight that. Now, so who are the Tren de Aragua? Tren de Aragua is a gang which began in a prison in Venezuela in a big exodus of Venezuelans from about 2015, when there was a really bad situation of the economy. Loads of people fled the country. About 7 million people left Venezuela after 2015. And among them were members of the Tren de Aragua gang. They set up around the Americas, including in countries like Colombia, in Chile, and some of them came to the United States. This was a big electoral issue. You started seeing things like this video of Tren de Aragua members in an apartment block with their firearms out, and this became a very heated electoral issue. So this idea is that they're going to El Salvador. Now, President Bukele in El Salvador has already had a very heavy crackdown on gang members, where he has been imprisoning en masse large numbers of gang members, particularly from the MS-13 gang, and putting them into this particularly one big prison which he calls the Centro de Confinamiento de Terrorismo. It's like the terrorist confinement center. And they're under a very harsh regime there, where any slights they'll be in solitary confinement, they can't answer guards at all, then a really hard lockdown process. So the United States has said it's going to send these Venezuelans to El Salvador, that they were deporting some Tren de Aragua members to Venezuela itself. However, Venezuela was making it difficult for the US to send these deportation flights. The US government is also accusing the Venezuelan government of being involved with the cartels, citing relationships between a group of military officers known as El Cartel de los Soles from Venezuela who are involved with drug trafficking and their relationship with gangs. So it's being very aggressive towards them in the wording of this proclamation as well. And then sending them to El Salvador. Now, Bukele is going to get paid for this first shipment of gang members $6 million. Now, the first shipment of gang members actually has 238 members of the Tren de Aragua and 23 members of the MS-13, many of whom are El Salvadoran or could be other nationalities. And Bukele is being paid $6 million for initially to house these gang members for 1 year. That is the price of about $23,000 per gang member. being housed in El Salvador. The US government saying that it's actually saving money doing this, and it's much cheaper than it would cost if they were in the United States. Bukele could be making a profit with this as well, but also he's establishing, strengthening his friendship with the United States, and in some ways establishing El Salvador as being like an offshore prison colony for the United States, where it can be paid to house these people in harsh conditions and avoiding a lot of complaints from human rights groups and so forth about how they're treating the prisoners. So there was an attempt by a judge to stop this expulsion of alleged gang members to El Salvador, and there's a discussion about exactly when the judge's order to stop this came through, at what point the plane took off or was in the sky, but the plane did make it to El Salvador. And when the news broke of the judge's order, Bukele of El Salvador tweeted, "Oopsie, too late." So that this mass expulsion did go ahead, but there's questions about how future mass expulsions like this could proceed. So what are the implications and prospects of this long term? So the first thing is this really fits into a new way, a more radical way of dealing with crime and organized crime and gangs in the Americas that we're seeing in various countries right now. So we're seeing it in El Salvador with the big crackdown on gangs. We're seeing it in Mexico, which also had a big mass expulsion of cartel leaders to the United States. And it cited a similar idea of emergency situation to bulldoze over their appeal processes. We're seeing in Ecuador with President Noboa also using this language of gangs as being terrorists. And we're seeing it in the United States under Trump. So we're seeing a change in the language towards organized crime and gangs and cartels in the Americas as being combatants, terrorist organizations, and invoking these kind of emergency measures. We're also seeing then with this, the idea of El Salvador becoming kind of offshore prison colony for the United States. It says, Nayib Bukele said, he will take, gang members of any nationality, send them down there. Could we even see American citizens sent down to El Salvador in the future? Now, how will this impact? You're going to have a certain deterrent certainly happening. People feeling, gang members feeling, okay, it's a lot more scary being in a center of confinement for terrorism than it is just being in a regular prison in Latin America or even a prison in the United States. This is a more frightening prospect of the conditions there, but we're also going to have a big legal battle over this. And this fits into the big illegal battles by President Trump, as he's only in a few months of administration, and you've all got many of his actions being challenged in courts, and where that battle will lead. So quite a critical moment here, a lot of things breaking in terms of this bigger fight against organized crime, against cartels, but particularly this really overhauling of that by the Trump White House. So you're watching this video and you're really into this world of cartels and organized crime and drugs. If you want to find out more about this, then go to www.crashoutmedia.com. For completely free, you can subscribe and see these great reportage, analysis and breaking news. Or if you like this, then for $5, the price of a couple of cups of coffee, you can get full access and become part of the Crash Out community.